We would have loved to chat some more, but we have a lot to cover in the next 1 hour. In fact, lots of earnings coming through as well. So let's go straight to that. JK Tyres is definitely one of the stocks of the moment. Good quarter reported in Q2. Revenues rose, margins improved year on year. Good recovery was seen in the India business, and the Mexico business also recovered from losses last quarter. AK Bajoria, the president and director of JK Tyres, joins us now to talk about that. Mr. Bajoria, good morning. Going through your numbers, your consolidated revenues have gone up 5.5% year on year, despite weak OEM demand across the board. So can you just tell us what have the segmental drivers been for you between replacement demand, OEM, even exports? Where have you seen the big trigger come in?
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your show. Yes, we have outbeaten the industry growth, and JK Tyre has done well. And you see, I'll take you sector-wise that in the passenger car radial, the demand has increased due to the festival season and also the preference for the personal transport vehicles. And then in the truck sector, the pickup in the e-commerce, and then the infra and cement, as well as vehicle tanker sector, and also the import restrictions imposed by the government for the truck bus radial tires and also the passenger car radial tires. You see, now you have to apply for a license, and the indiscriminate imports which were taking place have certainly been brought to a reasonable amount of halt. Okay, and so similarly on these SCVs, the smaller commercial vehicles, the preferences have been for the intra-district state movements, and so also the rural markets, they have really sprung to our pleasant surprise, of course, on the back of good monsoon.
Yeah, got that, Mr. Bajoria. So, I mean, we know that the ambience has turned positive for tyre companies, but in your own specific case, if you can tell us the segments, I mean, how much for trucks and the details of the segments.
Okay, the domestic business in JK Tyre, the growth has been 12%, and the replacement business, the domestic replacement business has grown by 22%, and the truck and bus replacement market, this has grown for JK Tyre at 27% in this Q2, and the farm business has grown by 57% in Q2.
Okay, that's impressive. Can you also tell us what is the reason for which there's been a big gross margin expansion? Gross margins have expanded from 31% to 41% quarter on quarter. What's the reason for that? And overall, will your margins continue to improve?
Well, the main reason has been our thrust on the working capital reduction, which has helped JK Tyre to reduce the interest cost, and so also a major focus on the cost control and mainly the fixed cost. And I'm very happy to report that almost 19% plus, almost 20% has been the overall reduction in fixed cost since the COVID pandemic started from March to September, that is.
Was it job cuts and salary cuts, sir?
No, job cuts and salary cuts. You see, we have taken a voluntary cut in salary, right, starting from the chairman right down below. We had different levels. The chairman and all of us took 50%, the next level at 40%, and the third level at 30%, and the bottommost level was just about 8%. So each one of us contributed for 6 months, and from 1st of October, this has been again put back in place. And so also the wage thing, we had mutual agreements with the unions, and therefore during the time the plants were completely closed, we had a mutual agreement, and they also contributed to some extent in terms of reducing the losses and the...
Got that, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, got that, sir. I wanted to know if you can crystal ball gaze a little bit about how demand is shaping up this quarter, if possible even next.
I wish. Well, I can only tell you one thing, that whatever we have achieved is despite the commercial vehicle manufacturers not doing too well. All the others, whether it is passenger car radial people, whether it is the farm tractors, whether it is the 2-3-wheeler manufacturers, motorcycles, scooters, they've all, and even cars, they've come to nearly the pre-COVID levels. But the truck and bus manufacturers are still reeling under demand pressures. And but on the other hand, they are all manufacturing. We have been supplying tires to them in anticipation of good festive demand. So I would imagine that this has to pick up. And so when the commercial vehicle manufacturers pick up their sales, then I think we should be doing even better than what we have done so far.
Okay, in fact, you know, your commentary and your body language is much better than when we spoke last. So I'm glad to hear that things are picking up and good to see that big smile as well. But I wanted to ask you a little more about Mexico because, you know, over there, last quarter was a loss, but this quarter you've moved into profits. Do you expect that to continue, and how is the performance at Tornel in general in terms of demand?
First of all, I must tell you that in Mexico, the lockdown was much more severe than India. I mean, straight away, I can say that we started our plants reopening and unlocking from middle of May, whereas in Mexico, it continued right up to the end of June. And that was the reason that now it is picking up. But again, the exports out of Mexico into US and also the other Latin American countries is picking up. And the best part is that we have had a very good agreement with the union there in Mexico. So straight away, now the capacities have gone up by 20% in view of the new agreement, which has come into force from 1st of October 2020. Oh, right. So I can assure you that the Mexican subsidiary is also going to give us a good top line and bottom line. And so also the newly acquired Cavendish Industries Limited, the former Keshoram's Birla Tyre. And that has also really done well in this quarter. As I can say that the top line and the bottom line has been extremely good. And our products are very well accepted. And especially, you see, because we acquired 2-3-wheelers, we acquired the truck bus radials, and surprisingly, the truck bias capacity, you know, the truck nylon, as we call it in the common parlance. So we are right now running our Luxor plant at 86% of our capacity.
So, Mr. Bajoria, any capex plans then?
Look, right now we want to sweat all our assets fully, and then we did have some plans, but we put them on hold. And as and when we see that the economy that has now taken a turn for the better, if this continues for next couple of quarters, I'm sure we will look into that as well.
Just one final question then on debt, because you have indicated that you're looking to reduce your debt by about 40% over the next 3 years. What is the debt level now, and how much could it go down by, say, in the next 1 year?
In the next 2 years, we have planned a reduction of almost about 1,800 crores. And one thing on this I must tell you, which was very important, and I started with that if you had noticed, that we had a very major thrust on the working capital reduction. And I'm very happy to report that almost 500 crores was reduced during this, particularly during the second quarter after we reopened our plants from middle of May onwards. And in fact, the total was about 700 crores plus, but then some of it has gone back because our productions have gone up, our volumes have gone up. So overall, I think in the next 18 months to 24 months, our debt to EBITDA levels should be within the limits of, let's say, less than 3.
All right, so we'll leave it at that.
It'll take about 2 years.
Okay. Mr. Bajoria, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much. Have a great festival season yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, well, we are cheered also because you will now see the COVID numbers flashing. This is the second biggest one-day fall in numbers. The numbers have fallen by over 24,000. and the active cases are now at the same level they were in August 26th. So we are talking about 2 months ago. The curve has been flattening and then falling for the past 2 months. That looks an extremely, reliable number. Also because the tests...
That's the biggest number.
Yeah,
because,
the highest.
you could have complained that for last 2 days, perhaps the testing wasn't enough. There's almost a 40% jump in tests from 11 lakh to 15 lakh that you're seeing, and still to report only 54,000 new numbers. Actually, the total cases is meaningless. When we look at the total cases, that is really a bit,
because the recovery rate is also
exactly
high.
Look at the active cases. I think we are seeing quite a bit of decline in that. So fingers crossed, because
no, I'll tell you, this is big because every day I try to take pictures of BEST buses which are like
packed,
bursting at their seams. But then the footpaths are so crowded, I don't want to stand and take, you're endangering yourself. But if in such a situation in Mumbai, you're going to see, deaths not increasing, thank God. It's 700 today. That's still much lower than the 1,050 that we had gone to in August and September. And the number of active cases are falling, and the number of new cases are falling in spite of higher testing. Then it does look like the variant of virus has either weakened or was weak in the first place, or our immunity has increased. But you should look at the buses. It's everyone has a mask. But where is social distancing? In 2 gaj, you will have 20 people. No question of a duri.
I think what's also important, at least for me, is that the mortality rate continues to be very low at 1.5%. So, people like us are more worried about our elders and, what happens with them if we contract it. But knowing that the mortality rate is so low gives you some sense of peace.
I'll just make one point here, and it's a request. We should not let the guard down, and especially wearing the masks. A lot of people are not wearing the mask on the nose, it's on the chin. It's almost as if not wearing the mask. So it helps save you and of course the ones around you. So wear a mask. That's very important.
I may sound very communist when I say this, but usually when you go in low income areas, like for instance you're walking through Lower Parel and all the shops and hawkers, everyone has a mask. When I go jogging in 5 Gardens, most people don't have. And that's where people are coming to shed weight. Those are the people who are not, maybe it's painting too many people with one brush. But often you're seeing more sense of responsibility or maybe fear. That, the hawkers are all wearing, even in the place where I jog, and the joggers aren't. Maybe it's difficult when you're jogging, but a sense of, Anuj is absolutely right that a sense of responsibility is called for in all quarters. Okay, that is, of course, our message and our request, but we have to take a break and come back to business. We will be joined by Kishore Patil, the co-founder, managing director and CEO at KPIT, to speak about their earnings.